This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, live from Charlotte, North Carolina, episode 141.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host to the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with my co-host, the man, the myth. No, he's not the legend. That's somebody else. It's Brandon Turner.
What's up, Josh?
What's going on, man?
Hey, it's good. I'm doing well despite some problems that I've been dealing with the last week with my rentals. That's been fun.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Some quick context. This show that you're about to listen to was recorded live at a conference called FinCon down in Charlotte, North Carolina. A bunch of us went down there to hang out and rub elbows with a bunch of our friends in the financial blogger community. It was a lot of fun. And the show's great. This is a fantastic show with Chad Carson, who has previously done shows with us, but this one was really, really good. Not unlike the others that we've done. But I've actually got a funny story for everybody.
Oh, do tell, Josh.
Yeah.
Does this story involve me and flames and all that?
It does.
Oh, good.
It does. It
Good.
does. Yeah. Yeah. So we're in Charlotte. We're at a bar. It's 11 o'clock or so at night. We're having a few drinks, relaxing, having fun. And Brandon gets a text message. And this wouldn't be unusual because typically through the course of any conversation with Brandon, he gets about 800 text messages, loses focus, and can't continue a conversation.
Wait, what? I just got a text. Sorry.
Exactly.
What?
So said text message said, Brandon.
It said, you need to call me. Your house is on fire.
Okay. So let's get some context into the story here. This text message came from somebody who was one of Brandon's very first tenants. He's been a tenant for like 8 or 9 years, right?
Yep. 8 or 9. Yeah, I think 8 years, something like that. Yeah. Very first tenant.
Okay. Back when you didn't really know what you were doing, you kind of did everything wrong. He's got your cell phone.
He's got my cell phone, knows where I live, all that good stuff that you should not probably do. He probably was never qualified to live there in the first place, but
Okay.
Back then, what's tenant screening, huh?
Exactly. And now you're in the process of evicting said gentleman for about a month and a half, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he was on his way out. He was moving stuff out of the house, finally got out for the most part, and in the process decided to set a box on a stove and then leave, and must have bumped the stovetop and lit the box on fire, which then lit the kitchen on fire, which then lit the house on fire. And while I'm in North Carolina, I get this call from the guy who I'm deliberately not talking to, and I haven't answered any phone call.
Well, you got a text.
Yeah, I got a text, yeah.
Right.
And I have not been answering.
Text.
I mean, he's been texting me for a month now, with the occasional, cussing me out for me being a jerk landlord for evicting a guy for not paying rent. And I just refused to talk to him. I just didn't. I'm letting the lawyer deal with it. Anyway, so the message says...
And you have a property manager and a lawyer.
Yeah, they were dealing with it. This is one that I gave over to property management because I didn't want to deal with this guy because it was set up wrong in the first place. Anyway, so he lit the house on fire on accident. I do believe it was on accident, but And...
And it was funny because we get the follow up. I mean, like
it was like
this text message comes in. We're sitting there like, what do we do? Is this guy like, is he threatening to light it on fire? Is this a call for help? What's going on? Like we're all trying to figure out how to help Brandon out here. And the phone rings and it's not his tenant, but it's the fireman, right?
It is the fire department was there at the house putting out the fires. So yeah, so they're dealing with it. They took it down. I handled it from 2,000, 25, maybe 3,000 miles away. And it cleaned up. Insurance is going to take care of everything. And, the best news is the tenant can't live there anymore because the house is completely smoke and fire damaged. So I kind of killed a couple birds with one stone, and this terrible tenant
you
is
did not kill any birds with one stone.
Birds with any stones, but
let's clarify.
Birds were killed.
Timing worked very well in your favor, and
yeah. My insurance company is not going to agree that this was a positive thing, but that's one thing I like about real estate: the fact that people say, "Well, what happens if your house burns down?" Okay, well, you deal with it. You have the right insurance. So that is today's quick tip. get insurance on your properties because houses burn. And if you don't have the right insurance or something bad happens, and call up your insurance company today. Make sure you have good insurance coverage on your properties, people. That's a quick tip.
Exactly. Great.
Anyway, that's the story.
Anyway, it's a tragic story, but at the same time, it actually worked out well in the end for you. Thank God. He, even though you were evicting him, thank goodness he didn't actually get hurt. Although there was somebody killed in the home, unfortunately.
Fish. That's right. His fish was killed in the home, which was sad. But at least it wasn't a person; it was a fish. Yes,
exactly. All right. Anyway. Let's get this show going. We've got a great show. All right, guys, as I mentioned before, this is a live show. Not really, but we recorded it live with lots of people and interruptions and things happen. And, stay tuned. It's fun. It was exciting and the content was awesome. So let's bring on Chad Carson, a fantastic guy, a great investor from... where's he? He's from, I'm blanking out.
He's from South Carolina, but what's the town called? It's
South Carolina. Yeah, what's it? Clemson.
Yeah.
Clemson, South Carolina. All right, let's bring on Chad. Chad.
FinCon!
Woo-hoo. That's what I'm talking about.
You ready for this?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready. This is the BiggerPockets Podcast live at the TradeKing stage here at FinCon 2015, Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, your host, here with my co-host, Mr. Brandon Turner. What's going on, Brandon? How are you, man?
I'm good. It's been a couple of good days here at FinCon, getting very, very little sleep. And people who don't know what FinCon is, Josh, what is FinCon?
FinCon is the world's premier conference for financial bloggers, financial writers, press, media, you name it. It's all about finance here at FinCon, Charlotte.
That's all?
That's it, man.
Oh, okay. That doesn't sound as exciting as it really is.
It is pretty exciting. This is a conference. This year there's like 880 amazing people networking, some of the top talent in blogging and writing all about real estate, finance, you name it. So I'm excited to be here. This is my fourth year. I think it's your third, right?
Third year. And we recorded last year. We did a live show as well, which was episode, I'm not sure, but we'll link to it in the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 141.
That's right. Show 141. Yes. So today we've got a great show. We actually have a BiggerPockets podcast alumni named Chad Carson, and we'll bring Chad out shortly. For those of you who are here can see that he's sitting here next to us. But before we go there, man, how have things been going lately? Everything good?
Things are good. I bought a new house. That's exciting. It finally closed. We've been talking about it lately.
We have. Congratulations.
I haven't moved yet, but I hired a high school girl to move all my stuff while I'm here at FinCon. She's been moving for the last couple of weeks, but she moved my kitchen. So I left with one kitchen. I'm going to come back, and the new kitchen is going to be stocked. All the dishes, all the food completely put away. I'm pretty excited about that.
That's great.
That's outsourcing right there.
That is outsourcing, and she's going to live with you guys now, I hear.
She is not. I wouldn't mind a maid, though, full time. That'd be kind of cool.
That's not a bad idea.
Like Alice from, what's that show, The Brady Bunch?
That's right.
My wife actually told me that a few weeks ago. She said, we need an Alice just to hang out with us and cook us meals and do in our house.
Do it. All right, man. Well, let's get to this.
Okay.
Let's make this thing happen here. So, Chad Carson. Chad Carson is a real estate investor, I believe from the Clemson area. And Chad, by the way, who many of you guys may not know, was a professional college athlete, or a college athlete, non-professional, who played in front of tens of thousands of people, which is pretty fascinating to me, by the way. But Chad's been investing for how many years, Chad?
It's been 13 years.
So Chad's been investing for 13 years, and we're really, really excited to have him back on the stage. So, Chad, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you here.
I appreciate it, Josh. It's great to be here with you guys, and FinCon is a wonderful place to hang out and get to know people and really network and learn a lot. So this is awesome to be here.
Very cool. Yeah, you were last on the show back on episode 84, where we talked about getting started with creative finance and designing your ideal lifestyle. And so today we're going to shift gears a little bit, and people can go back and listen to that, of course, at biggerpockets.com/show 84. But today we're going to talk we're going to precede that conversation a little bit, do a prequel, I guess you could say.
It is.
We're going to talk about how did you get to that point? You had to buy real estate deals. You had to buy a lot of deals. So how did you do that? That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you find amazing real estate deals? Because not every deal in the world is going to work. In fact, most of them won't. So how do you find the best ones?
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
How do I find really good deals?
I have no idea at all.
I want to be a real estate investor. What do I do?
We should ask Chad, because Chad's actually here. We'll ask him. How do you find good real estate deals?
Let's do it. Chad.
Awesome. Well, I love the topic, and I think it's important, though, to precede that a little bit and say, and Brandon and I were talking a little bit in another conversation, that you can go out and try to find deals, and you can do all this lead generation to find deals, which we're going to talk a lot about today, and I've got some tips for you guys to actually, some specific things you can use to find good leads and deals. But I think it's important, first of all, to say just kind of what do you have to do before then? So,
sure.
Brandon, what do you think? What are some of the first things that you did? And I can bounce in there too, but what do you recommend people when they first start, before they even start looking for leads?
Ooh, look at that! You're turning the interview around to me. That's exciting. So, I don't know
he flipped that on you, man.
He did. I know. I was unprepared. Okay, so I always tell people this mindset is probably the most important thing. First of all, you've got to get in the mindset that I'm going to go buy a good deal, not just any deal, but you got to know mindset wise, you got to buy a good deal. Would you agree?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you guys, I listen to your podcast and I know how it goes, but yeah, I would say first, you have to get educated, and you got to know kind of how to analyze a deal, and you got to know most importantly, what's important for your niche. Because I think when I first started, I was a wholesaler. So I was going out and finding deals that I would get under contract and assign to other people. And if that business model is completely different than somebody who is working a full-time job and needs 1 or 2 rental properties on the side, and they're about to retire. Yeah. So I guess I'm just bringing that point up because these are some really cool tips we're going to talk about, but there's some other homework that you want to do to kind of find your specific place within the real estate investment world first.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people are like, hey, I'm going to be a real estate investor. And they're like, get all excited. And they're like, what do I do? Finding deals is one thing, but if you don't know, and we talk about this in our beginner's guide, right? I mean, biggerpockets.com/UBG, the ultimate beginner's guide. You've got to pick your strategy. You've got to pick your niche. You've got to know what you're going for. I mean, now granted, if you find a good deal, there's a whole lot that you can do with it, but you really need to know how to find that good deal. And you really need to know, what are my possible exits? How do I get out of this thing? What do I need to do? So we talk about that elsewhere. We cover that. Right now, let's get into this thing. How on earth do I find great deals? So you've got 7 tips, the first of which is driving for dollars. So driving for dollars, let's talk about that. What is it?
All right, so this is a pretty cool strategy, first of all, because if you're low budget or if you have a big budget for finding deals, either way, this is not a really expensive proposition. So basically, you're going to get in your car, you're going to fill it up with gas, and you're going to look on Google Maps and say, this is my target area, and I'm just going to drive. And this could be on your way to work if you had an extra 10 minutes on the way to work, or this could be a planned Saturday afternoon, for example, like if you're part-time working on the weekends, and you're just going to drive neighborhoods, but you're going to do it deliberately. You're going to be looking street by street by street in every little nook and cranny of a neighborhood, every little side street. And there's a few things that you're going to look for. And so I've got 3 typical or kind of main things that are going to catch your eyes, and these are going to be just flags that you're going to stop. When you see these things, you're going to stop, you're going to do something. So the first thing you're looking for as you're driving around would be these houses with grass that's up to your waist. Yeah. There's newspapers in the
Those
in
are
the
pretty
driveway,
houses.
and they're vacant. So you're looking for signs of houses where somebody's moved out, and for whatever reason, you don't know why they moved out. It could be that they moved out across the country. It could be that they lost their foreclosure. It could be whatever. But you're going to be looking for those, and when you find one, you're going to stop, you're going to pull over, and you're going to write it down on a notebook and say the address and maybe the address to the left and the right, and then you're just going to keep on creating a list, doing it that way.
Right on. Yeah, that's a great way. And the great thing about finding vacant properties is anybody can do that. It costs you absolutely nothing. Yeah. You get in your car, you drive around, you look for houses that look like crap, and suddenly you've got a list of potential buys, correct?
That's right. And I don't know about you guys, but we sort of call it our Vacant Radar. Like, my wife is in on this game, and everybody I know in town's in on it. It's like, look, if you're riding around, I want you to be looking for these vacant houses. And everybody I've taught how to look for these now, they can't. It's like a different driving experience now. I mean, you can't drive through a town without noticing these houses that before you were completely ignoring. But now that you're looking for them, you'll notice weird little things. Like, for example, a vacant house might not have any curtains in the windows, or they might have something. There's no toys for kids in the driveway or something. But you find all these little things in your town that sort of indicate why a house is vacant, and they're all over the place. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many there are.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so true. My wife and I do the same thing. Like, I never heard the Vacant Radar before, but that's exactly what it is.
Term.
Yeah, it's like you start to know. You're like, that looks like it might be a vacant house, and then like sometimes if I have time, I'll like get out of the car and go kind of walk up to the house, maybe knock on the door, and see if it is vacant, if there's somebody there. I mean, as I'm walking by the front window, take a look inside and, see somebody in there changing, and they scream and call the cops, and it gets really awkward at that point.
That's a good idea. I like that. Yeah, especially when you're like 8 feet tall and scary looking. It's a good idea.
And you wear a hood and you run at night, and it's like midnight, and it gets a little weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
I would sell Brandon my house if he walked up at night too. He's a scary dude.
Give me your house.
Yes.
All right, cool. So we got vacants. That's fairly obvious. What else do we have?
Well, the other ones, I'll just quickly say that you're going to see signs, and the sign I don't typically call are the realtor signs. That's the one everybody else is calling. I like to call for sale by owner signs, because they potentially, you can talk directly to the seller and not always work out a deal, but there might be some reason why they didn't list it with a realtor. They might need to sell it quickly. Maybe they hate realtors. I mean, there's no reason, no telling why, but I've bought some properties just by calling them for sale by owners. The uglier the sign, the better. If they bought it, if they just bought a yellow sign and they hand wrote it on there, or they used the old for sale by owner sign they found in the dumpster. You want some kind of just ugly sign. That's really good, because they're less apt to try to. They're just kind of amateur, to be honest. They haven't done their homework, and they're more likely to be a motivated seller, which is what we're looking for.
Right on. So we got the for sale by owners, we got vacants. This is driving for dollars, and a great thing to do. What you want to do is you want to create your quote farm, right? So you want to figure out, what area do I want to invest in, and this is obviously not going to work when you're looking remote. This is going to have to be something when you're looking in a relatively local area. You're going to scout out an area, and you can literally just make a grid, right? Just go up, down the blocks, on your way to work, wherever kind of your pathway is that you want to invest in. And essentially, over the course of time, things are going to change. What's not vacant today might be vacant in 3 months, 6 months. So you just keep doing it over and over again, and you've always got a constant flow of leads, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and the other thing is exactly what you said. You got to pick a neighborhood and go after it and make that your farm. So. But the final one I was going to say, the final thing you want to look for when you're riding around are for rent by owner signs. And not a lot of investors think about this. They think, if it's for rent, it's not for sale. But I've had a lot of success, and other people I know have had success calling the for rent sign. And you can ask, you can just be honest and say, I'm an investor as well. I saw your house is for rent. Tell me about it. Maybe I could refer you somebody. But by the end of the conversation, if you can turn it around and say, well, I see you're renting the house, but have you ever considered selling it?
Yeah.
That one question has bought me a lot of houses, and has bought other people I know houses. So if you just get practice, it's very simple. And landlords, a lot of us are landlords, so it's a person you can relate to and talk to, and so that's pretty cool. You can have a conversation with them, and it might even lead to other things. Maybe they're going to turn into a private money lender. Maybe they're going to be a referral source of other things for you. So it's a really good thing to call rental signs.
I was going to add that, like, when you do that, you might not get 9 times out of 10 they're going to say probably not, maybe, but it doesn't matter. You might build that relationship. They might become a mentor. If you're brand new at real estate, what a terrific way to get a mentor and to get into it than by calling landlords who are doing exactly what you want to do. And if nothing else, maybe you'll hear their horror stories of what they screwed up on, and you can try to avoid those things.
Yeah.
So, I love that stuff.
And one of the things that we always talk about is, taking out experienced investors for coffee or syncing up with them. And that's a great way to meet people. One of the tips the actionable tips we always tell people is, every week you've got to try and reach out to at least one new person, or every day, or however often you want to do it. And that's a perfect way to do it. So right on.
Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. Let's go to number 2. So the first one was driving for dollars. What's your second tip on finding great deals?
All right, well, I'm going to stick with another free one, because I want everybody to have some budget ideas that they can do without having to spend a lot of money. But the second one is just going on to Craigslist. So a lot of us use Craigslist to buy appliances. We use them to sell our old furniture and things like that. But, people sell houses on Craigslist. People rent houses on Craigslist. And so I've got a few ways that you can, and you can do this from home at night. After you get home from work. You can look on Craigslist, and I would start off going to the for sale by owners section. So on most Craigslist, you can look in your area and you can just search for any house that's for sale by owner. And you can make a list of those and just start calling them. And it's kind of like you said earlier about the calling for rent by owner signs. It's not necessarily going to be a high success ratio, so you got to prepare yourself to get a lot of no's or maybes. But if you practice getting on the phone, there are all sorts of good things that happen. And one of those is that you might buy a house. And so it's a free way to do it, and you can control it.
Right on. But do you have any tips? Because calling people can be really scary. So for those people who are afraid to pick up the phone and actually do it, what tidbits might you want to give those folks?
Yeah, my heart always races. Even to this day, I've made thousands of calls and had hundreds of appointments with people. But I like to write the first thing I'm going to say down, because the worst thing that can happen is you just kind of freeze up on the phone and say, "Oh, wrong number, bye," and hang up. And so if you write down the first question or the first sentence, and if you write down the last question or the most important kind of call to action question, which would be, "Are you interested in selling your house?" or "What are you going to sell your house for?" If you write those down, then when you freeze, you can go back to your paper. And I still do that sometimes. Just write it down. Here are the questions I want to ask, and that'll sort of be your little handmade script.
That's a great tip.
So but besides the for sale by owners, are there any types of ad titles that you are specifically going to be looking for? Anything to help save time, filter out, and find these properties?
Yeah, there's a couple. One is an estate sale. So, I've had some people just try to sell their house on their own, and probate or estate, that'd be sort of an indication. A lot of people put stuff on there. Not only houses, if you can look at furniture sales, people have estate sales in your town, and they put their stuff on Craigslist. So if you can talk to them about, "Hey, I see you're having an estate sale. When is the estate sale?" and ask about it, and you can say, "Well, with my family, we sold all our furniture, and right after that, we sold the house. Are you going to be selling the house too?"
That's great.
It's a natural question, because the person who's dealing with the estate is typically not that excited about it. I've known, because I've had to help with my family too, but they're not that excited about it, so they want to sell their house, and so it's a good way to kind of segue and do that.
Yeah, I went to an estate sale a few months ago, and I walked through and I was looking at the stuff that was for sale and all this stuff, but I went up to the owner and I was just kind of talking to him, and I really wanted to ask him if they would sell their house, but I was like, I don't know, I felt like weird, and I was like, that feels awkward to do that. I don't want to bug them and ask them, so I didn't. And then 2 months later, they sold their house for this rock bottom price to some other investor who ended up flipping the house. And I'm like, dang it! Why did I just ask them? It would have been a 10-second thing. I was just afraid of hearing no, and so I talked myself out of it, and I lost the deal because of it. So, yeah, I like that. It's just something you got to do. You got to just get over. And I like your tip about the phone call a lot, writing down your first line. I think that's just good. And even in person, you could come up with a phrase you always say. Practice it ahead of time. I think that's awesome. So, cool.
The other tip I'll give, and just final, about any of these phone calls you're making, if you're an introvert and you're not really used to making calls, you're going to have to psych yourself up a little bit. You're going to have to think about why am I doing this? And so, I like to think about the fact that I'm not calling them to bug them about something. I'm actually calling to help them about something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for some of us who've already bought houses, we know that there's some people we've really helped a lot, and they were so happy the way they bought their house. But if you've never done this before, you might be thinking, I'm just taking advantage of somebody, or I'm buying their house cheap. No, you're actually the person who's going to sell it to you is going to be very happy that you're buying it from them. And so you got to go in there with that attitude that I'm looking for that person who I can help. And if the person who says no is just somebody you can't help, don't worry, don't take it personally.
It's interesting, because not just in real estate investing, but here we're at FinCon and we got all these people who are little entrepreneurs doing their thing. Across the gamut, fear is probably one of the most powerful things that stop us from accomplishing what we want to accomplish. And so whether it's making that phone call, or whether it's getting out there and doing mailers, or driving for dollars, what do I do next? I found a property, now what? I'm freaking out. Or, hey, I've got this blog, and how do I, all these things. It's fear, and you have to get past the fear. And the key to get past the fear is to have a plan, is to have a map. And by knowing, whether it's a script on who you're going to talk to, or at least a basic map on how you're going to accomplish your task, you're going to have a easier time getting past that fear. Really quickly before we go on, we've got you back. It's been a while since you were on the show. how many units do you have? How many properties do you own? How many units do you have? How long have you been doing this now?
Sure. I've been investing in real estate full-time for 13 years. So I'm 35 years old, and I graduated from college and decided that before I figured out how to do a real job, I would just go and start buying some houses and just do that for a couple of years. And I look back now, and I've been doing it full-time. So I'm an entrepreneur, but we currently own 55 units, and we're in a college town, Clemson, South Carolina. So some of those are college rentals. Some of them are just your typical single-family houses, duplexes, that sort of thing. But I like to tell people I'm a little big business. So I have 55 units, which for a new person is going to sound like a lot, but for somebody who syndicates thousands of properties, that's very tiny. Yeah. But I work out of my basement. We have a part-time person who helps us out, low overhead. I'm a lifestyle business. I like to travel. I like to do other things. I like to write. And so the real estate's really, I think the most powerful part about it for me has been the kind of flexible lifestyle that it's allowed to do so many other things. And that's what really I'm excited about.
So with 55 units, you don't really have the credibility to talk about finding deals, do you?
Not at all. No.
Right on.
Well, cool.
All right, cool. So we had Craigslist, we had Driving for Dollars. Next thing on the list is the MLS.
All right, so this is one that probably a lot of people already do. So maybe we can go into some nuances of some different techniques. But sure. Most properties sell in MLS. Everybody knows it's the realtors list most of the properties, and they put it on this big database called MLS, which goes out on the internet and syndicated everywhere else. And so it pays to pay attention to that for two reasons. One, because there's a lot of properties there. Two, because it's free. Again, if you're getting started, you want to try to exhaust every free resource you can. And so my strategy with MLS is to kind of filter out the ones that are actually have some potential for being interesting. And so one way I do that, you can hire a realtor, if you're not a realtor yourself, to do a search for you, and they have a computer where they can filter out and look for certain things. And for me, one of the most important things is days on the market. And so I don't want to, unless a property is priced really low the day it comes on the market, I'm not really interested. And even then, it's because there's going to be 5 or 6 other people bidding on it with me, and I don't like to bid against other people. What I like to do is come back after everybody else has forgotten about the property, and after they've had to lower the price 2 or 3 times, and it's at 200 days on the market. They might have been not motivated to start off, but for any of you, and I'm in this camp too, when you owned a property and had it on the market for 200 days, you start listening to a lot of different options. Yeah. And that doesn't mean you're going to take the low offer, but there's a lot of other things that you can get done. And so I asked my realtor to search for those, and then from there we'll start looking for ones that are listed within the price range or kind of close. If it's within $10,000 to $15,000 of our target price that we think it would be a good deal, then we'll start making offers on those and just start following up.
Do you have like a minimum time on market before you start even looking, or is it just play by ear?
Not necessarily, no, but I divide the search into 2 different kind of categories or buckets. One might be, here are the long day on the market ones, and then the other ones might be, all right, it's only been 20 days on the market, but it's an REO, it's a bank foreclosure, it's an estate sale, and so you can get your realtor to use some other keywords like that. So fixer-upper, REO, estate sale. I was thinking about some other terms. Sometimes you can look for addendums required. That's sort of a back way that they might not list bank-owned property, but all the bank-owned properties, you have to sign addendums. And so your realtor, if they really know their stuff in the local market, they know what the foreclosure motivated kind of sellers, typically how they list them. So ask your realtor to help you figure out a search that gets those into a category, and then you just search down that list and find the ones that are in your target location that are already kind of below the full market value, and then you start going after those.
Yeah, and just because it's on the MLS obviously doesn't mean it's going to be a good deal, and just because it's been on the market for 280 days doesn't mean it's going to be a good deal either, right?
Exactly, yeah. Some people try to buy a property just because it's in foreclosure, they think it's below market value, and that's not the case. And this sort of goes back to our conversation at the beginning, is that this is all assuming that you've done some work on your business plan. You've done some work on what my target neighborhood is. You've done some work on what a good deal means. I mean, do you know the numbers? Do you know the market values in your area? Because you have to know the value. That knowing your values is such an important thing. And I equate to people that this is like lifting weights. If you're an athlete, every single day you train and you lift weights in order to perform well.
Right.
Well, in the real estate business, our product, our commodity is a piece of real estate that has a certain value. And so if you want to lift weights every day, you've got to know your values before you go out and start doing all this stuff to try to find deals, because that's how you recognize what a good deal is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, the analogy of kind of like lifting weights. It's something that they do every day. Weightlifters work every day. And like, I use this analogy
Something you do every day, right?
Well, here.
Obviously, look at Brandon.
Yeah, look at me. I'm ripped.
You're a beefy dude, aren't you?
No, at FinCon, this is my 3rd day in a row working out there. You should be proud.
I know. I stopped after like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm joining you guys. I'm going to work out with you guys tomorrow.
All right, yeah, you're working out.
I've heard about this.
No.
But I love this analogy of like working out because it's the everyday process of doing every day a little bit. You don't have to, if you want to start investing in real estate, you don't have to start out by buying a whole ton of stuff. Start out by one activity every day that takes you 10 minutes. I mean, that might be analyzing 3 deals. I say that all the time on the BiggerPockets webinars. I encourage people to analyze 3 deals every single day, every day without fail, right? Or maybe it's just meeting one new person that's investing in real estate in your area every week. Or maybe that's jumping in the forums on the BiggerPockets and asking one question every day. Just that everyday action, I just love. There's that famous quote that says it's easier to work out 7 days a week than it is to work out 3 days a week. Yep. Because when you work out every single day, you don't fail as often as you do working 2 or 3 days a week. So anyway, I love that stuff.
Right
cool.
on.
All right, let's move on to number 4 here. What is that?
So our fourth one is, I call it referral prospecting.
Referral prospecting.
And so this is sort of a bigger bucket of things that you do to try to get other people bringing you leads. And I got to be honest, this is the one that sort of changed my business life when I realized, and I was actually looking at other businesses, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? Most businesses, when they're in business 4 or 5 years, they don't have to do a whole lot of proactive marketing, like in a little small town. Yeah. If you're the local small town attorney or the small town dentist, my mother was a dentist, so I kind of saw this behind the scenes.
You've got nice teeth, by the way.
Yeah, look at this. Yeah, I wish they could see it on the podcast, but she's done a lot of work on those from all my football days, tearing my teeth up. But anyway, most local business people don't do a ton of marketing 5 years into their business because they get so many referrals to the point where most of their business comes from referrals. And so in my real estate business, I thought about that. And I said, what can I do? It's almost like planting seeds. What can I do right now to start planting seeds with other people so that they'll bring me deals instead of me having to be out there hustling all the time, hustle.
Right.
And so I'll give you a few ideas on ways that you can do that. And again, they're really inexpensive. So one is we're all on BiggerPockets. And so one of the most valuable tools for me in my local market is to be in the local market forum on the BiggerPockets. And so I'm in South Carolina, and I'm in the upstate of South Carolina. And so if you let people know on that forum that here's my location, and for me, I'm the Clemson guy. I'm in the college town. I want people to know I buy Clemson properties. And the week does not go by when I don't have another investor in my area who's apparently my competitor, but they're always bringing me leads because either they don't have time, or they don't have the money this week, or they don't have the inclination on this type of property. And so that's an often missed opportunity by telling other investors in your area, specifically through BiggerPockets, which is a huge network of people in your area, that you buy properties, what you're looking for, what neighborhoods, and just let them come to you.
So let's talk about that. I know we talk about that a lot, and I think it's important to stress every time it comes up, so I'm going to stress upon it again. You said, these people are my competitors. I am an investor in this market. I want to get good deals, and they are investors in the same market, and they also want to get good deals. They are your competitors. Why would you want to work with your competitors? There is a benefit to be gained, is there not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's counterintuitive for some people, but I know for a fact the last 2 years, the best deals I've bought the last 2 years have become from a referral from somebody who does something fairly similar, but he just had a little bit different niche. For example, it was one guy referred me a duplex. He didn't want to buy duplexes at the moment. He was buying 20-unit buildings. And so that made perfect sense for him that he was looking for bigger stuff. He had bigger fish to fry. This was just a little duplex, which was an awesome deal for me. It was right in my wheelhouse. And it happens every single day that there's some deal that another person's doing that they can refer to you. So, yeah, absolutely.
And not just if they're doing another niche. I mean, you might have a guy who does duplexes and you do duplexes, but he's tapped out because he's got too many deals and he doesn't have the cash or the resources to get the next deal. So, if he can work with you, exactly, get a small piece.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can also start telling people, if you're somebody who has the capital to buy deals, like if you're a cash buyer or you have some sources of private money, start telling other investors that, hey, I've got money to loan. So if you're interested in being a private lender, a lot of the times that's sort of a back door to getting deals, because the person who has the deal, your competitor in your town, says, hey, I've got 3 deals under contract and now I've got a 4th one. I don't have the money. Can you loan me the money? And you can talk about it. Say, yeah, I'll loan you the money at 15% with 4 points, and whatever the case might be. And they say, well, I'm not going to do that. I said, well, I'll buy the property from you for $50,000. They say, okay, I'll make $3,000 and just pass it on to you.
That's a great tip.
And so I mean, there's lots.
You're a terrible person.
Yeah, I know. No, it is. But this is a common theme that Josh mentioned earlier, is that if you get out and you start talking to people, there's so many people, I think, in the Bigger Pockets when we're talking on the forums, they think there's a technique or a trick that you're going to get some direct mail campaign, or that we're talking about the MLS here, referral prospecting. You need to do those, but the common theme is you need to start talking to people, and you need to start pitching people about what you do.
Yeah.
If you do that every single day in whatever form that comes, then you're going to start having some opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. And you just mentioned, you mentioned this idea of the local networking forums on Bigger Pockets. Just in case people aren't familiar with what that is, we recently introduced these sub forums in Bigger Pockets that you can go to, and your area has its own sub forum, probably. And so there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, we've got state, and then we've got major metros,
state and then major
counties.
Yeah, and so you can go in there and just start networking in that sub forum, like you do in the Clemson or whatever your South Carolina.
We need to get an upstate one, guys. I'm having to network with all of South Carolina right now. But.
So there's everybody watching and listening. You just called us out. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Hey, can we find another guest? Alexander, come on up, man. You're an investor.
Constructive feedback from your consumers, yeah.
All right, cool. So we talk about Bigger Pockets. I was kidding, but that's okay.
What's up, everyone?
This is Alexander, another Bigger Pockets member.
I'm Alexander from CashflowDiaries.com.
Nice. And you write about real estate?
I do write about real estate. I love real estate, and I love Bigger Pockets. I've been a member for years, and most of the information that I know is from Bigger Pockets.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, we're going to get you on the show at some point full time. Is that cool?
Hell yeah, man.
We're doing it.
Thanks.
All right. Let's get back to this guy next to me. We're talking about Bigger Pockets, referral prospecting, local networking groups. So there's other stuff too, right?
Yeah, so the other thing I would do, and I've had a lot of success with, is talk to all your professionals in your hometown. So you kind of back into this and think about when somebody has to sell a house, whether it's they're in financial straits, or whether they inherited the house, or for some reason they're selling this fixer-upper house that you're trying to buy. Who do they talk to in the town to get advice? Well, you think about it. I mean, what would you guys say? I don't want to put you on the spot again, but who do they talk to when they go into town to get good advice? When they have a situation in their family or whatever happens?
The realtor, their pastor. They talk to you, don't they, Brent? You're a pastor, aren't you?
I'm not a pastor. I'm a youth leader. They're different.
He plays a mean guitar, though.
I play a mean guitar.
And ukulele, too, right?
And a ukulele. I know 3 chords on the ukulele.
Nice.
I can do some damage.
He'll be doing that later on, guys, for everybody who's alive.
Yes.
I was going to bring it, but I didn't.
For everybody who's sober tonight.
Yeah.
Come to Suite. What room are you in?
All right. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking like insurance. You might, if you have an insurance question, go to your insurance agent. Yeah.
Real estate
House,
agent.
you go to real estate agent. Mortgage, go to a mortgage person.
So what about your attorney, too? I was thinking
attorney, yeah.
Attorney, your CPA, your financial advisor.
Yep.
So I just found that all these people in town who a lot of real estate investors don't go talk to them and tell them what they do, and that's a mistake, because what happens is those people they're having their appointment with their financial planner, with their attorney, and they say, you know what, I need to sell my house. I really don't know what to do at this point. And if they knew that you're a respectable person in your town who also buys properties, that attorney might say, well, you could list it, but if you really need to sell it quickly, you could try talking to Chad. He buys. I know he buys houses.
Yeah, but Chad, they know you're not respectable.
Yeah, you need to be respectable first. So we'll precursor to that. But I'm in a small town, that's kind of another conversation. But everybody's in a small town. If you're in a big city, you have your village. I think it's Warren Buffett who said this in one of his books, that if somebody who's working for him loses money for them, he can forgive that. He didn't like it, but he can forgive it. But if somebody loses one shred of reputation for Warren Buffett, they're gone right now. I think if you run your business that way, I think that's really important, because that is your equity in financial terms in your business, is your reputation. So in a small town, that equity turns into referrals. Going back to this whole conversation about referrals, if you have a good reputation, if you deliver, if you over-deliver, then people who know you, other professionals in town are going to refer business to you.
That's huge. And so many new real estate investors come in and they're like, I hear about these marketing techniques, and some of them might be kind of borderline, and they're going to try some they may try some, slightly shady stuff and think that, it's great because I got a deal from it, so it's okay to do. The problem is everybody else now knows that you did that. So you've kind of soiled your reputation to folks, and they may not want to work with you. Just because you were successful 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, you've kind of just used up your ability to be successful, and you don't have a long-term business anymore. You've just screwed yourself. So reputation is absolutely everything. I agree with you 1,000%, and that's fantastic feedback.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so what else we got? We got referral thing. You want to go on to the next one? Or you got anything to wrap that up with?
No, I think that's it. So.
All right, so that was number 4. Let's do a quick review. Number 1 was
Driving for dollars. Number 2 is Craigslist.
Okay.
Number 3 is using the MLS, but using it a little bit smarter. Don't just try to go after the whole MLS. Be targeted about it.
Okay.
Number 4 was referral prospecting.
Okay.
And number 5 is we're going to talk about direct mail.
All right, what is direct mail?
All right, so direct mail is instead of going after the whole universe of people who own houses in your town, you're going to try to build a list. So you can buy lists from different sources. There's online, if you search for direct mail lists in my town, there are a number of people who will sell you a list for a few $100 for a lot of names. So that's kind of another story, and maybe we can link to some, and I can give you a couple names.
Yeah, for sure.
That we can link to. But basically, once you get a list, you can search for certain criteria of homeowners. So you don't want all of the homeowners. You want, for example, all of the homeowners who live in a different location than where the property is. That's called an absentee owner. And that's one of the most common lists. So you're going to have to test these. I didn't put this first because I think this is a little bit more advanced technique, even though on the forums and different places, people talk about direct mail all the time. This is one of those techniques that you're going to have to spend money on, and it's a possibility that you send 1,000 letters out, because that's how many you have to send before you start getting results. You can't just send 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. You have to send 1,000 and maybe get 10 calls or 15 calls. And there's a possibility, though, that in your market, if it's so competitive or this niche doesn't work, you might send them out to the absentee owners and you get no calls because there's 10 other letters going to that same person. That's just part of the deal. You have to experiment with it. And so that's why I think it's a little bit more of an advanced technique, is that you have to be willing to spend and lose a little bit of money in order to make some money to find the right list.
Yeah.
But absentee owners is always a good place to start, because if you just think about the motivation level, there are potentially people who live in another place who are having to take care of a property in your hometown. And that's, especially if they're managing it themselves or they inherited it, that's just not a fun situation to be in. I'm a local property owner. I like owning property in my backyard. And the people who own property out of town have to do a lot more work. They have to do a lot more and take a lot more effort than I do. When an emergency comes or something happens, I can just drive by it. And so that leads to motivation for some people, especially if they haven't done their homework, especially if they don't know how to manage properties. And so that's a really good potential list.
Yeah, it's a great start. What else besides absentee owners? What other options do we have for direct mail, or at least that you use?
Right. Here's one that is not talked about a lot, but it was the first one that I ever did when I first started investing right out of college. Was I found the people in your town who have filed an eviction to evict a tenant. Yeah. So automatically you've taken the whole universe of property owners and you've narrowed it down to just landlords. And from there, I built a list. So you can go down. I used to have to go down with my laptop and kind of sit in this corner on this little desk on the edge of a little desk in the courthouse. And I would type on my laptop for like 3 hours. And these days things are on the internet, so it makes it a little bit easier. But look in your hometown and look for the clerk of court in my area, it's called the magistrate court. But you want to look for the clerk of court and find wherever they have public records for every single court proceeding that ever happens in any court. It's public knowledge. And so you should be able to narrow it down by just eviction proceedings. And so you can build a list there, and from there you narrow it down even further. Though I don't send them out to all the properties that have property managers, because they're doing a little bit better job managing them typically. Yep. So I look for the people who have the properties themselves and they filed their own eviction. They're the ones who are going to be completely frustrated by this tenant who's just torn their house up, who's probably not paying them, but they're filing the eviction. And they're indicating that they have a higher likelihood of being motivated. And so if you send them a letter or you give them a call, track down how to contact them, you have a pretty good chance of buying that property.
It's a great idea.
I've said this before. I'm actually going through an eviction right now.
You are, yeah.
My longest tenant I've ever had.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not being evicted.
And this is the property that you've got this fantastic property manager managing. Yeah, right? She's awesome, right?
I have a terrible property manager. Hope she's not listening. Actually, I hope she is listening. I have a terrible property manager. I know you guys have been following along for the last 6 months about this terrible property manager. I have not fired her yet, but that's a whole different story of why I haven't. But anyway, I want her to deal with the eviction. So we're evicting this guy. He's been with us for 8 years now or whatever, and my longest tenant, and just destroying the house in the process. I mean, it's just every day is costing me thousands of damage to the house. I'm just watching this happen, and there's nothing I can do about it. So like, I know, like, this feeling I have right now, if an investor came to me and was like, hey, I want to buy your property that you're going through, I'll take care of the eviction, or whatever, I'd be like, just take it. I don't want it. Like, I just have that. I'm so emotionally drained by this stupid tenant that I just like, I just want out.
So, by the way, the address of Brandon's property is...
I'm going to get like 100 direct mail letters
Brandon,
now.
you're going to be getting a letter from me tomorrow,
You guys don't want this one. This is my very first property. It was beautiful, but apparently the property manager texted me the other day and said she almost cried when she looked through the windows.
You should read that text. That's a really good text.
Yeah, I'm not going to read that. I'll cry right here on the air. All right.
So, the point is, even somebody, Brandon is an experienced investor who's bought a lot of properties, and I know I could say the same thing that Brandon's saying on properties that in the past. Whatever price you would sell it for at the top of them, when you felt best, after you've been dealing with a tenant, you are going to be whatever that you will sell it for a lower price. It might not. It will be lower no matter what.
I didn't really want to make a profit on that property anyway. I'm good.
I'll pay some people to take this property.
Yeah. That's what I feel like. And a lot of people. Hopefully I have the experience to know that I shouldn't let my emotions drive my decisions. But a lot of people don't. Like, they simply say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm done. I've had this guy, my brother-in-law, living there for 17 years, and he has never paid rent, and
And you guys, this is Brandon talking here, right? Those of you who know the show have been listening for almost 3 years. Brandon's been doing this for a long time. If this can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. Evictions happen. They're exhausting. They're difficult. Hopefully you have a good property manager who's helping you out. But you can understand why this is a good motivator for a potential person to want to sell their property. The property is just a constant headache. The tenant there's a pain in the neck, or one tenant's fine, the next one's a headache. Whatever it is, it's time to move on, time to sell. And I don't think we've actually talked about this, so thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
I just want to piggyback what you said, Josh, and that there's a common misconception in the real estate world is that when you buy a property as an investor, that you have to take advantage of somebody else who's just going to let it go really cheap and they don't know what they're doing. Well, I think what we're getting at here is that there are intelligent people who have bad moments, but also there's intelligent people who make strategic decisions to get rid of a property because they might have a better opportunity somewhere else. Yeah. So for Brandon, for example, this is the first property he bought. He might have another deal here that he can make a 20% return on. He might be willing to sell it at a loss in order to get rid of it, to get his capital back, to go do another deal. And I've had plenty of deals like that where a very intelligent person chose to sell it because I would close in a week and pay him cash, and he could be done with it. So
you never know what people's motivations are, and if you don't ask, you'll never know. So awesome.
Right on. All right, number 6, guerrilla marketing. Whoa.
All right, so this is another big category, but we'll go on a couple little specific things. But guerrilla marketing means just low-cost ways to get the word out about yourself. And so the first one I'll say is just kind of basic, business 101, get a business card and put something on that business card about you buying properties. And so when I first started, I got 500 business cards for like $15, and every time I pump gas in my car, I put the business card on the top of the gas pump. Every time I went to a coffee shop.
So you litter.
Yeah,
that's great.
People always pick my cards
up. That's a really good technique. I like that.
I know. Don't tell the local magistrate police.
I won't say a word.
Yeah. Anyway, and so I would put my card where you get creative on where you can put your cards, but you can go to the coffee shop and put them on the bulletin board. You can go to your local church or your organizations might have places to put them.
Yeah.
And those cards go around. So get a business card. It's cheap. It's easy. That's guerrilla marketing.
And you also hand it to everybody that you meet, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So again, we're talking about professionals. If you're going to an attorney's office, if you're going somewhere else, you're going to hand those cards out, and they spread out.
Right on. Cool. So we've got business cards. What else?
So other inexpensive things like that, we can just list them. Things like flyers, things like magnetic signs for your car. Yeah. At one point, when I don't do magnetic signs anymore because I don't really have to, and I don't want to have to drive around with them on my car. But when I had to, in the very beginning, when every single deal I bought was the difference between being able to put food on the table or not, I put magnetic signs and stickers all over my car because I needed to pay the bills. And for every year, for 5 years, I bought a property off of a sign I had on my car every year for 5 years.
That's awesome.
So it's like it cost me $50 or $100, and it put food on the table. So
right on. Yeah. Cool.
I love it.
What other techniques do you have for guerrilla?
Well, you could dress up like a gorilla and stand out there with a sign, but
or you could look like my co-host who was born that way.
I was nicknamed Sasquatch in high school.
Right on.
All right, I think that's it for the guerrilla marketing.
All right, so we're running out of time. We got 5 minutes left. Let's go to number 7, the last on the list, which is what?
All right, so this is really simple, but sometimes you just want to handpick a property. So in my town, there's certain properties that, for example, there might be a 20-unit building if you buy multi-unit buildings. There might be a rental property you think is just a good location. Just handpick that property, look up the address, look up the owner, send them a letter, call them. You just get a list of like 10 or 20 properties in town that you want to buy and just keep bugging them for a long time. I bought one this last year that I'd been bugging them for 7 years about buying their property off and on. I mean, we met, I talked to them, they knew me, but I mean, situations happen in life and they change, and they need to know that you want to buy their property.
Yep.
And that works.
That's awesome. You're like Scott, who works for us.
He bugs people too.
He does. He boomerangs them.
That's it. The last property I bought was that exact way. I've been watching it for 2 years and just waiting and watching it. And then it was a little different that it came on the market. It was like a foreclosure sort of, but I've been watching it for years, and then it went into foreclosure, and then I knew I wanted that house. And when it came on, I watched it, I jumped on it, I got it, and I handpicked that house and I wanted it.
So let me ask you guys this really quickly, because one of the things that we learn as real estate investors is not to get emotionally attached to a house. Are you guys not then emotionally attached to that property?
Well, I'll qualify it. The reason I handpicked that property was that there's certain locations in town that attract better rents, that attract better tenants. For me, I'm in a college town. The closer you are to campus, the better. And so what I found is just there's a limited number of good properties close to town. And so it just pays to narrow those down and search. If you're in Clemson, send those deals to me, by the way. But in any case, in your town, it's the same way. The farther you get from the good places, the schools or the interior, the village center of your town, the walkable locations, the parks, it's not as attractive of a rental. So what I'm saying is go to the best locations. You still have to have a good deal. You're not going to be emotional and overpay for that property, but all you want is a call, and that's what we're saying. Send letters to people who own properties in good locations.
Right on. All right, so finding great deals, guys. Chad has been awesome. Let's run through this list really fast. Top 7 tips are driving for dollars. We got Craigslist. We got MLS, referral prospecting, direct mail, guerrilla marketing, and hand-picked properties. Chad, we got you. What do you got going on? But really quickly, what do you got planned for the next foreseeable future with your real estate?
Well, we're sort of in a maintenance mode. We have a certain number of properties that we're happy with. We sell off a few, we buy a few, but we're in a mode of trying to get our properties paid off, free and clear, buy a few strategic properties here and there. But really, my big picture when I first started was to have income producing properties that paid for my lifestyle, and we're getting closer and closer to that, to where I can do other stuff like this and talk with you guys, write on my blog, do stuff like that, and that's what I'm all about.
Right on, awesome. Right on. All right, so it's now time for the world famous Four.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we now have a recording that does that, but that was how we used to do it. So, famous four.
So what is and we've asked you this before, Chad, when you were on the show back in number 80, whatever it was, number 84, but we'll see if it changed at all. So number 1, what is your favorite real estate related book?
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one, and so I hope you all allow me a little bit of leeway, but I like reading books outside of the real estate niche because I get a lot of good ideas that I can then apply to it. And so for me, the number 1 guy I like to study is Warren Buffett. And so I really enjoyed the Warren Buffett way. And
good book.
This is Robert Hagstrom was the author, and it goes through a lot of the fundamentals of what Warren Buffett's looking for in businesses. But for example, I've noticed that a lot of the same things he's looking for, if you translate that to real estate language, is very similar. Like I just mentioned, buying them in good locations. I didn't believe that apparently when I first started buying properties, and I bought a bunch of crap in bad locations, and now I'm paying for it. And I've learned why buying good locations and maybe paying up a little bit for those properties can actually make you more money over the long run. And that's a classic Warren Buffett. He buys good companies at below market prices, but he buys them.
Right on. Perfect. Right on. I thought you were going to say the book on investing with no and low money down, but
Josh, that was the first time you've ever said the title right. I want to give up. Round of applause for
Right.
Josh.
Yeah. I've been
Look at that.
studying really hard.
You got my book title right.
Really, really hard.
I do like that book too.
It's a good book. It's a book. All right. So that was a non-real estate book. How about other business books? So is there another business book that you've really gotten a lot out of lately?
Yeah, I've got one I just pulled out last week that's a classic from like the 80s or 90s, but it's called What They Don't Teach You at Harvard Business School. And it was he was an agent. He was an attorney and an agent for a lot of high-profile athletes. But he talks the whole book is about street smart kind of business advice and that you wouldn't pick up in a business class. And it's things like how do you communicate with people? How do you write thank you notes? And it's just a lot of really handy, practical advice that I think is awesome. And whatever business you're in, you can really benefit from that kind of advice.
That's great. I never heard of that one, so I'll pick that up.
Right on. All right, hobbies. What do you do for fun, man?
I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old little girl, so my hobbies involve them basically. But we like to walk and hike and get outdoors.
Sing Frozen songs.
Yeah, I sing
Let it go.
Yeah. I've got the whole Frozen song memorized. We could do that for a postscript, maybe.
Nice.
Awesome. Brandon?
All right, cool. Final question. I'm going to tweak it a little bit for today's show about finding good deals. So what do you believe overall sets apart investors who are able to consistently find deals from those who struggle and never find a deal to buy?
All right, I'm going to do a little plug for an article I wrote on BiggerPockets, but to me, the number one thing is hustle. So, I mean, we've given you techniques here. You could pick one of these techniques and run with it. But really, the difference between the people I know who get a lot of deals in my hometown are the people who just hustle like crazy. And what I mean by that is just when you get up in the morning, you're looking after deals, you're going after deals every single day, consistently, without fail. And if you hustle, good things are going to happen. And so I would say that.
Right
Awesome.
on. Hustle.
You know, I will also say, like, for those people who don't read the blog very often, the BiggerPockets blog, like, Chad is by far one of my favorite writers we've ever had on the BiggerPockets blog.
Yeah.
He's like one of the few people that I have to read every post that comes out. And so I'm going to link to all his posts in the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 141. And
right
so
on.
anyway, Chad, thank you so much for being with us today.
Whoa, hold on.
You want to ask him?
I got
an
one more
important
question. Chad,
all right,
where can people find more information about you, man?
All right, so I'm on BiggerPockets. You can find my profile there and has a link to all my articles. And I also write some kind of non-real estate stuff at a blog called CoachCarson.com. It's about business, money, and life, kind of how that all intersects and wealth building. So you can check me out there as well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, FinCon. Yeah! Woo! Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us perform here on the TradeKing stage. I'm Josh Dorkin.
And I'm Brandon Turner.
Signing off.
All right. That was Chad Carson live on the BiggerPockets podcast from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes, it was.
Pretty cool interview, man. Lots of great tips, huh? Chock full of information.
It was. It definitely makes me rethink like a lot of what I do. In finding deals, I'm like, I should do this and I should do this. And, maybe I'll start to incorporate, I know I will start to incorporate a lot more of those in my business. Because today you have to be creative. I mean, deals are hard to find. So
yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's get out of here.
So big thanks to Chad for coming on. Yeah, let's do this. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed show 141 of the BiggerPockets podcast. Definitely make sure to check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 141. You can also find all of the rest of our podcast at biggerpockets.com/podcasts. And that's it. If you're not yet a member of our amazing community, I definitely encourage you to get involved. Jump on biggerpockets.com, sign up, create an account. You get to hang out and network with guys like Chad and Alexander, who came in and so kindly interrupted our show earlier.
That was awesome.
And it was awesome. But yeah, jump on the site. We hope to see you there. Thanks for being a listener, and we'll see you next week on the BiggerPockets podcast. I'm Josh Dorkin.
Signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.